Now, over the past 7 years, Roman Reigns has been the face of the WWE. During this time, Reigns has been booked rather strongly, and WWE have limited the amount of pinfall losses he has taken. In fact, every single entry in this list comes before Reigns' heel character debuted in 2020, and now WWE seems set on making Reigns untouchable. With that being said, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 WWE superstars who have defeated Roman Reigns in a singles match. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Finn Balor. When WWE introduced the brand split in the summer of 2016, they wanted Finn Balor to be the top babyface on Raw. This was a great choice as Balor had undergone a fantastic run in NXT, and his popularity should have in theory carried over to Monday Night Raw. The first time Balor appeared on Raw in any official capacity was on the first Raw after the WWE draft, and WWE presented Balor in a way that wasn't just entertaining, it was insanely credible. Balor would defeat Rusev, Cesaro, and Kevin Owens in a fatal 4-way match before colliding with Roman Reigns. Balor amazingly defeated Reigns cleanly in a fantastic match that is still talked about over 6 years later. WWE and Reigns did the right thing on that night as it was Balor's highest point on the main roster. It's just a shame that unfortunate injuries combined with lackluster booking diminished this hot start for the inaugural Universal Champion. Number 9. The Big Show. WrestleMania 31 is well regarded as being one of the greatest WrestleMania events of the modern era, but sadly the build to the pay-per-view was not WWE's finest work. Royal Rumble winner Roman Reigns would feud with a number of people on the road to his match against Brock Lesnar. These included The Big Show, Daniel Bryan, and Seth Rollins. But in a weird booking move on the February 2nd, 2015 edition of Raw, WWE booked The Big Show to defeat Roman Reigns. The finish of this extremely short match came when Rollins would hit Reigns with the Money in the Bank briefcase, allowing Big Show to hit a chokeslam for the huge victory. Number 8. Bray Wyatt. Roman Reigns would take time away from the WWE title picture following WrestleMania 31, and this was so fans could claim that WWE weren't shoving him down everyone's throats. And for the most part, this worked, as it was great to see Reigns work with WWE superstars up and down the card, and one of these was Bray Wyatt. Reigns and Wyatt would feud throughout the summer of 2015, and their first pay-per-view against one another would be at the Battleground pay-per-view. Wyatt badly needed a victory in this match, as his credibility had been heavily damaged thanks to high-profile losses to the likes of John Cena and The Undertaker, and WWE thankfully did the right thing with this specific booking decision. Now, although Wyatt didn't win cleanly, as Luke Harper did interfere, Wyatt secured the 1-2-3 over Reigns, making a monumental victory for the Eater of the Worlds. Number 7. Eric Rowan. WWE's big angle for the summer of 2019 saw Roman Reigns get attacked on a number of occasions backstage. This angle was compelling at first, but it eventually got convoluted, and it was clear that WWE had no idea what they were doing with the storyline. Eventually, it was revealed that it was Eric Rowan who attacked Reigns, a disappointing choice, and one that really didn't make a lot of sense. Naturally, Rowan and Reigns would collide on pay-per-view, and in one of the biggest upsets of WWE history, WWE booked Rowan to win the match. Yeah, that's right, at the Clash of Champions pay-per-view in 2019, Rowan defeated WWE's biggest star. Now, the victory wasn't clean as Luke Harper once again interfered, and this allowed Rowan to hit the Iron Claw chokeslam for the win, but nevertheless, fans were absolutely stunned that Rowan defeated Reigns. Now, it was rumoured at the time that WWE had big plans for Rowan, but just a few weeks later, he was once again losing to everyone up and down the card, and this would be his only time in the main event spotlight. Number 6. Shane McMahon. 2019 was a weird year for WWE, as they seemed to enjoy making Shane McMahon the top heel in the company. Shane would attain huge victories over The Miz on pay-per-view, and he would even defeat Roman Reigns. At the Super Showdown pay-per-view, thanks to help from Drew McIntyre, Reigns would fall to Shane McMahon in a truly baffling booking decision. Now, the issue wasn't necessarily that Reigns lost, it was the fact that WWE outright refused to have McIntyre defeat Reigns at the WrestleMania 35 pay-per-view and the Stomping Grounds pay-per-view, and these victories would have taken McIntyre to the next level, but they just wouldn't pull the trigger. However, WWE, moreover Vince McMahon, were more than happy to allow a non-wrestler to defeat their top star on one of the biggest events. It was definitely downright bad booking. Number 5. Braun Strowman. And when it was revealed that WWE had plans for Roman Reigns to feud with Braun Strowman, there was some initial concern from fans. Braun was relatively new to the main roster at this time, and Reigns hadn't really worked with anyone that had less experience than him. However, the feud exceeded expectations, and it would produce some of the best matches and moments of both of their respective careers. Reigns was incredibly giving in the feud with Strowman and put him over on multiple occasions, including twice on pay-per-view. The first time was at the Payback pay-per-view where Braun Strowman secured a clean victory, and then the infamous Great Balls of Fire event where Braun defeated Reigns in a chaotic ambulance match. The rivalry was handled really well by WWE, and it was a clear indication that Reigns could be trusted to get someone over. Number 4. Bobby Lashley. And one of Roman Reigns' more forgotten pay-per-view matches is his match with Bobby Lashley in 2018. The first time ever encounter would take place at the Extreme Rules event, and it saw Lashley pin Reigns after a spear. The match itself took place just a few months after Lashley had returned to the company, and the match was potentially overshadowed by Lashley's win not meaning so much in the long term. It was expected that Lashley would face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam for the Universal title, but WWE ran a rematch between the two the following week on Raw that saw Reigns pick up the victory. This meant that Reigns would be heading to SummerSlam to face Lesnar, whilst Lashley would be left off the card entirely. Number 3. Baron Corbin. During his time in WWE, Roman Reigns had some fantastic feuds, but he also had his fair share of stinkers. The feud with Baron Corbin that lasted between 2019 to 2020 seemed to never end, and the matches between the two weren't exactly lighting the world on fire. Interestingly, Corbin is the last person to defeat Reigns by pinfall to date, and this occurred at the TLC pay-per-view in 2019. The match was a TLC match, but interference from the Revival and Dolph Ziggler turned the match into an unofficial handicap match. Corbin would hit the end of days on Reigns onto a chair to secure one of his biggest wins of his promising career. It was a shame that the matches didn't click between Reigns and Corbin, as both are talented in the ring, but it was just a case of WWE not knowing when to move from a feud and begin something exciting and fresh. Number 2. Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins would team up with Roman Reigns for virtually every match during their days in the Shield, but it's their chemistry as opposites that truly stood out. WWE had been rather protective in giving this match away, as the two have only wrestled a handful of times, but each time it's been tremendous. Rollins has secured 2 pinfall victories over Reigns, as one was in Raw in 2018 and it saw Rollins pin Reigns in a gauntlet match. The other came at the 2016 Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where the two wrestled in the main event for the world title. This was the match that featured the incredible spear into a pedigree spot, and it saw Rollins win the world title for the second time in his career. The two would also collide at the 2022 Royal Rumble pay-per-view, as Rollins would once again be victorious, but this time it was via DQ, but it certainly opened the door for more matches between the two gifted superstars in the near future. And number 1, Brock Lesnar. Without a doubt, Roman Reigns' arch rival in WWE is Brock Lesnar. The two have battled it out across a number of WrestleMania events, and it's clear that WWE views the feud as its biggest feud in the entire company. Lesnar has defeated Reigns twice in singles matches on pay-per-view, but only one of these occasions came via pinfall. The one that wasn't issued by a pinfall came at the Greatest Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and this was a cage match between the two. Lesnar would win after Reigns speared him through the cage, but Lesnar's feet landed first, meaning that he won the match. The one time Lesnar actually pinned Reigns came at WrestleMania 34, as the two would feature in one of the most infamous and controversial main events in WrestleMania history. And the issue with the match was that fans had no interest in the feud at the time, and both characters were past the point of being stale. After 6 F5s, Lesnar pinned Reigns to retain the Universal title, and this was a notorious match that was responsible for Lesnar throwing the Universal title at Vince McMahon backstage due to how unhappy he was with the match. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE superstars who defeated Roman Reigns. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.